to take home a cheap 10-pin in monthly prizes or walk away with a grand prize of 250,000 kwacha. Chaliroku, and you cannot afford to not get lucky. Use your ABSA card to enter the draw. Terms and conditions apply. Your story matters. ABSA.
For in-depth news coverage from across Zambia, local and national news, business, politics, and sports, this is the Sun FM News, brought to you by ABSA. Your story matters.
The news.
Hello and welcome to the presentation of the news here on Sun FM Radio and TV. I am Imelda Chukwati. The headlines. President Hakainde Hichilema has reaffirmed Zambia's unwavering commitment to multilateral cooperation and demanded substantive reforms in the United Nations system that reflect the rights, needs, and aspirations of member states, especially in areas of peace, security, and sustainable development. Vice President Mtalina Lumango has attributed the continued loss of by-elections by opposition political parties to their reliance on the legacy of late President Edgar Lungu as a campaign strategy, a move she says does not serve the nation's best interests. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation has issued a firm advisory to all Zambians abroad, especially those residing in or planning to travel to the United States, urging strict compliance with immigration laws in light of recent policy shifts aimed at tightening border enforcement. Copper Queens defender Lushoma Mwemba says Zambia will not take DR Congo lightly when the two sides meet in their final Group A match of the Total Energies CAF Women's Africa Cup of Nations WAFCON Morocco 2024.
The news, 88.5 Sun FM.
President Hakainde Hichilema has reaffirmed Zambia's unwavering commitment to multilateral cooperation and demanded substantive reforms in the United Nations system that reflect the rights, needs, and aspirations of member states, especially in areas of peace, security, and sustainable development. During talks with the UN Resident Coordinator Beatrice Motali at State House, President Hichilema clearly stated Zambia's expectations, citing the burial of late President Edgar Lungu to be resolved in full alignment with national customs and dignity. He emphasized that Zambia has historically honored its leaders, including Kenneth Kaunda, Frederick Chiluba, and Rupia Banda, and that Lungu must be accorded the same respect without delay. The president also expressed gratitude to the UN for condolences following the death of a Zambian peacekeeper in the Central African Republic, reinforcing Zambia's active role in peacekeeping missions across the UN and SADC. Zambia's position on UN reform remains unequivocal, and Africa must be fairly represented on the UN Security Council, and institutional reforms must move beyond rhetoric and reflect real progress.
They went to court. Eventually the court ruled that family interests matter, but national interests also matter. And KK is parent. He's not the one who died first though. He was the first president but lived much longer. I think 95, 96, 96 thereabouts. So the president died before him. So he too is parent there. And the family has first-hand experience of that. But we really appreciate the condolences that you have offered to us and that you are following the discussions. Any help that can come from the end will be very appreciated to break this impasse. We also want to acknowledge your condolences on the demise of our beloved soldier who passed on duty in the Central African Republic. As you know, Zambia has participated and continues to do so in the UN peacekeeping missions.
Meanwhile, UN Resident Coordinator Beatrice Mutali has reaffirmed the United Nations' enduring commitment to strengthening its partnership with Zambia, commending the government's decision to defer the Constitutional Reform Bill number 7. She described the move as a constructive step toward inclusive and participatory governance, especially as the nation prepares for the 2026 general elections. Ms. Mutali emphasized that Zambia's approach aligns with the UN's core values of transparency, accountability, and citizen engagement. She also marked the UN's 80th anniversary as a pivotal moment to reinvigorate global efforts in peace, development, and human rights. Echoing Secretary General Antonio Guterres' call for reform, Ms. Mutali stressed the urgency of streamlining UN operations to deliver greater impact and efficiency across member states.
On a different note, Mr. President, the UN welcomed the decision by the government to defer the Constitutional Reform Bill 7 to allow for further consultations and ensure that the government and the people of Zambia collectively contribute to securing an enabling environment for the 2026 elections. Mr. President, with the UN commemorating 8 years of multilateralism, our briefing today will focus on what this means for the UN and particularly for the UN in Zambia. In addition, we will at a later point want to go into more detail on what we see as some of our priorities between now and over the next 2 to 3 years, alongside our ongoing work as outlined in our UN cooperation framework.
Vice President Mutali Nalumango has attributed the continued loss of by-elections by opposition political parties to their reliance on the legacy of late President Edgar Lungu as a campaign strategy, a move she says does not serve the nation's best interests. Speaking during the Vice President's question and answer session in Parliament, Mrs. Nalumango stated that invoking Mr. Lungu's name during campaigns stirs emotional sentiments among voters, diverting attention from pressing national issues that need real solutions. She urged political players to refrain from involving the deceased in active politics, warning that using Mr. Lungu's name creates a misleading impression since he is no longer eligible to be voted for. As a mark of respect, the Vice President called on opposition leaders to allow the 6th Republican President to rest in peace. She was responding to Mongo Central Member of Parliament, Oliver Amutike, who had queried why the opposition continues to lose by-elections and in some instances fails to file nomination.
Position, Madam Speaker, that are using the name of the late president are not doing justice to anybody, not to the dead, not at all. And we don't live among the dead in Zambia. So when you say the dead, you start, praising a dead person here, then you'll be either a witch. I mean, this is our tradition. Don't do that, please. The man is gone. He did the best he could. He's gone. That's why we respect him, even though we didn't agree with him politically. You are confusing things. We didn't agree with him politically. We didn't hate him. You see what you have done now. You have lost because we are using a wrong tools.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation has issued a firm advisory to all Zambians abroad, especially those residing in or planning to travel to the United States, urging strict compliance with immigration laws in light of recent policy shifts aimed at tightening border enforcement. The ministry warns that violations of immigration regulations could jeopardize individual legal status and tarnish Zambia's international reputation, potentially influencing future policy decisions affecting fellow citizens. Zambians are strongly advised to stay informed and compliant with host country immigration laws, must report any changes in immigration status to local authorities promptly and avoid undocumented residency. If need be, consider voluntary repatriation to Zambia to preserve dignity and avoid forced removal. For those in the U.S., the ministry specifically directs that all status changes be formally reported to the Department of Homeland Security. Inquiries regarding Zambian national documents must be routed through the Embassy of Zambia in Washington, D.C. The ministry also reminds all diaspora citizens to use official Zambian embassies and high commissions for documentation and support, and encourages direct contact with the ministry for further guidance. The Ministry of Mines and Minerals Development has unveiled plans to collaborate with large-scale investors to enhance gold mining operations in Zambia, aiming to unlock the sector's full potential while ensuring equitable benefits for all citizens. Mines Permanent Secretary Dr. Hapenga Kabeta has reaffirmed government's commitment to active participation in mining ventures, stating that strategic partnerships with experienced investors will help modernize gold mining, increase productivity, and create sustainable economic opportunities for Zambians. As part of this initiative, the ministry will subdivide and allocate smaller portions of mining areas in Mufumbo district to cooperatives. The move is designed to discourage nomadic mining and provide structured opportunities for young Zambians, a model that will be extended to other gold-rich regions. To improve safety in artisanal and small-scale mining, Dr. Kabeta announced the upcoming launch of a newly developed pit-side manual which will offer guidance on safer mining techniques and help reduce fatalities caused by limited technical knowledge in informal operations. Additionally, the ministry plans to establish dedicated market centers for mining cooperatives to sell their gold. The centers will be modeled after successful systems in Tanzania and Ghana, aiming to streamline trade, enhance transparency, and ensure fair pricing. Dr. Kabeta also issued a stern warning against the illegal use of mercury in gold processing, citing its severe environmental and health risks. This is contained in a statement issued by Shamwinda Tembo, Principal Public Relations Officer at the Ministry of Mines and Minerals Development. Member states of the Africa Social Security Association, ABSA, have been urged to prioritize the development of robust social security infrastructure to drive sustainable economic growth as they ponder on creating a social security infrastructure development fund. The Social Security Infrastructure Development Fund is aimed at funding infrastructure projects with a social impact on citizens through contributions from social security funds for economic growth. President of Tanzania, Samia Hassan, in a speech delivered on her behalf by her Vice President, Philip Mpango, during the opening of the 14th Africa Social Protection Policy Makers Conference, President Hassan said robust social security schemes provide social safety nets that allow the populace to participate in productive economic activities. The 14th Africa Social Protection Policy Makers Conference is being held in Arusha, Tanzania, under the theme Social Security Funds, a Catalyst for Infrastructure Development and Inclusive Social Economic Growth in Africa. President Hassan noted with concern that African countries face infrastructure deficits with the annual infrastructure financing gap estimated between $68 billion and $108 billion, according to the African Development Bank, thereby affecting the continent's global competitiveness in economic development. She urged policymakers to boost financing of rural social and economic infrastructure to support the well-being of rural communities, thereby improving productivity and reduce on rural-urban migration in African countries.
Second is the challenge of ensuring that the infrastructure projects that social security funds invest in are economically and financially viable. Infrastructure projects that are not viable are likely to erode the ability of social security funds to meet their obligations promptly. If robust feasibility studies of such infrastructure projects are not done a priori, it could result in longer payback periods to the beneficiaries or even complete failure to pay them back.
Meanwhile, Minister of State, Prime Minister's Office, Labour, Youth, Employment and Persons with Disability, Ridhiwani Jakaya Kikwete, called for collaboration among ABSA member countries to respond to the evolving needs of the population amid the rapidly changing development by promoting sustainable development growth in Africa. He stressed that partnership between policymakers, social protection schemes and stakeholders are crucial in addressing challenges in the informal sector and the vulnerable.
While the foundation of social protection lies in ensuring social security, we must recognize that addressing underdevelopment requirement is a multifaceted approach. For the vulnerable, for vulnerable and marginalized to truly benefit, we must integrate social protection with the broader range of government services and development strategies. Achieving this meaningful progress on our continent will demand coordinated efforts. All relevant bodies must collaborate, pull together our limited resources, and respond to the evolving need of our development population in a rapid changing environment.
And National Pension Scheme Authority, NAPSA Director General Muyangwa, who is the ABSA chairman, said the association is building responsive social security systems that are inclusive and beneficial to the populations. Mr. Muyangwa further made an appeal to the Tanzanian government to facilitate for the association's recognition by the African Union and other regional economic communities such as Southern African Development Community SADC and East African Community EAC. He also requested for a piece of land for the construction of the association's headquarters, which will accommodate the Africa Social Security Association Secretariat, a training institute and office space that will be rented out, and ensure the costs of putting up the building are moderate.
Our humble but strong belief is that social security institutions must play a pivotal role in contributing to this agenda by leveraging their ability to mobilize comparably low-cost patient capital that could be channeled into higher impact projects with long-term tenors in order to begin to address the continent's well-documented infrastructure financing gaps and its negative impacts on economic progress on the continent. To this effect, Your Excellence, ABSA is in the process of establishing a continental infrastructure investment fund, which we believe and trust will be part of the resolutions from the ministerial dialogue at this conference.
This is according to a statement issued by Mwaka Ndawa, Principal Public Relations Officer at the Ministry of Labour and Social Security. Anti-Corruption Commission Director General Dafin Chabu says research shows that Africa forfeits approximately $100 billion yearly due to corruption and illicit financial activities which hamper the continent's economic development by redirecting funds away from essential areas. In commemorating African Anti-Corruption Day under the theme Promoting Human Dignity in the Fight Against Corruption, Mrs. Chabo emphasized that losing such huge sums to corruption must end. She therefore reaffirmed the Commission's unwavering commitment to eliminating corruption in all its forms. The Director General reiterated that transparency and accountability are vital to combating corruption and building resilient institutions. She explained that the observance, anchored in the African Union Convention on Preventing and Combating Corruption, served as a powerful reminder of the collective responsibility to eradicate corruption across Africa. Mrs. Chabo emphasized that corruption is not merely a legal violation, it is a direct assault on human dignity. She noted that Zambia's ratification of the AU Convention, alongside 47 other member states, reflects the country's unwavering commitment to fighting corruption in all its forms. Mrs. Chabo stressed the need to place human dignity at the heart of anti-corruption efforts, underscoring that integrity, transparency, and accountability are foundational to good governance and social justice. She called on Zambians to take ownership of the fight against corruption by speaking out, reporting wrongdoing, and living by ethical values.
This year's theme compels us to see corruption not only as a legal infraction, but as a profound assault on human dignity. It robs people of opportunity, access, and voice. It entrenches inequality and creates systems where only the corrupt thrive, while the honest suffer. The objectives of this commemoration are threefold: to celebrate progress and share best practices in embedding human dignity into anti-corruption strategies through legal reforms, inclusive governance, institutional integrity, and mechanisms for social accountability.
In more stories, this year's African Anti-Corruption Day commemoration also aims to celebrate progress in integrating dignity into anti-corruption strategies, unite stakeholders across sectors, and strengthen support systems for whistleblowers and victims of corruption. The ACC reaffirmed its commitment to building a transparent, accountable, and just society where every Zambian can live with dignity, free from the grip of corruption. The United Party for National Development in Northwestern Province has called for the newly discovered gold site in Kikonge, Mufumbo District, to be allocated to youth cooperatives holding artisan mining licenses. UPND Provincial Youth Chairman Bruce Kanema appealed to President Hakainde Hichilema to heed the voices of young people in Mufumbo and the broader province, emphasizing that empowering licensed youth cooperatives would promote inclusive economic participation and responsible mining practices. Mr. Kanema revealed that the matter has already been escalated to the president and that a resolution has been reached to grant mining licenses for the Kikonge gold site to cooperatives.
Onto the president to listen and Northwestern at large to ensure that the newly discovered gold rush in Kikonge, just like Kasempa, is given to the youths in terms of cooperatives and artisan licenses. And so this issue has been escalated to the president, and in the quickest possible time he has responded. As you are aware, the minister is here, the member of parliament, that issue has been resolved. The licenses for the Kikonge gold rush will be given to the cooperatives, to the youths.
The Small and Medium Enterprise Association of Zambia has urged the government to introduce legislation requiring foreign investors to partner with local SMEs rather than offering them loans that may be difficult to repay. Association Executive Director Ngobola Muyembe noted that loans can place a financial strain on SMEs, particularly when businesses are underperforming. He emphasized that collaborative partnerships would allow small businesses to benefit from foreign investment without the burden of debt. This appeal follows a statement by Minister of Small and Medium Enterprises Elias Mobanga, who revealed that his ministry is proposing a 35 million kwacha allocation from the 33.6 billion kwacha supplementary budget for 2025 to support SMEs. Mr. Muyembe believes this funding would be more impactful if directed toward facilitating partnerships between SMEs and foreign investors rather than issuing loans that might not be repaid.
Instead of these haphazard policies of just throwing money at them. So because if you give money to SMEs, but if there is no business, that will make it possible for them to pay back, then the minister will still be complaining about our people not paying back the loans.
The Road Transport and Safety Agency, RTSA, has completed deliberations with insurance companies and upgraded its systems to support the rollout of a single motor vehicle disc that will consolidate fitness, insurance, and road tax details to be launched in 6 weeks. RTSA Director and Chief Executive Officer Engineer Emon Mwemba explained that the disc will feature a QR code to help officers verify the authenticity of documentation and curb the use of counterfeit papers. During an appearance on Hot FM's Red Hot Breakfast Show, he confirmed that RTSA will be solely responsible for issuing the discs. Looking ahead, Engineer Mwemba revealed that the agency is working toward a future where physical discs will no longer be required on vehicle windscreens as digital technologies continue to evolve.
The whole idea is that we're working towards having no discs. Once we put the right technology in place, we don't want to have any pieces of paper on your screen. We want it as clear as possible. That's not a problem. You will have a different date for the expiry of your insurance, a different date for the expiry of your road tax, and a different date for the expiry of your fitness.
Meanwhile, Engineer Mwemba pledged RTSA's commitment to eliminating corruption in the issuance of driver's licenses, describing the problem as endemic and deeply rooted within the agency's culture.
It had almost become a culture, and I'm more than happy to admit that. It has almost become a culture in the RTSA, and I think it's a legacy of what used to happen in the RTC before we became the RTSA. Something that has been passed on from generation, unfortunately. So we are busy trying to find out who is doing this and removing them from the organization.
We now take a break. When we come back, sports news. Stay with us.
Imagine having the financial freedom to live life on your terms. With the ABSA Plus account, you can manage your finances, save for the future, and access personal loans. Plus, enjoy travel insurance, a credit card, and retrenchment cover when the unexpected happens. If that's not value, I don't know what is. Let's help you write the next chapter of your ultimate story. Call 5950 to open an Ultimate Plus account today.
Your story matters. ABSA.
Copper Queens defender Lushomo Mwemba says Zambia will not take DR Congo lightly when the two sides meet in their final Group A match of the Total Energies CAF Women's Africa Cup of Nations WAFCON Morocco 2024. Zambia going to the clash with 4 points, having drawn 2-2 with host Morocco in the opener before edging Senegal 3-2 in a 5-goal thriller. A victory over DR Congo would secure a place in the quarterfinals, potentially as group winners, depending on the result of the Morocco versus Senegal encounter. Despite DR Congo being eliminated after back-to-back defeats to Senegal and Morocco, Mwemba insists the Copper Queens are not letting their guard down. Reflecting on the journey so far, Mwemba said the tournament opener served as a wake-up call, which the team responded to with determination. While DR Congo have struggled defensively, Mwemba said Zambia will not get carried away and are aiming for a balance between attack and defensive stability. With qualification in sight, Mwemba says the team is fully focused on finishing the group stage on a high and maintaining momentum. Zambia faced DR Congo on Saturday, 12th July 2025 at 21 hours Central African Time at the El Bachir Stadium in Mohammedia, hoping to seal their place in the knockout stages of AFCON 2024. Now, as we leave the headlines once again. President Hakainde Hichilema has reaffirmed Zambia's unwavering commitment to multilateral cooperation and demanded substantive reforms in the United Nations system that reflect the rights, needs, and aspirations of member states, especially in areas of peace, security, and sustainable development. Vice President Mutalina Lumango has attributed the continued loss of by-elections by opposition political parties to their reliance on the legacy of late President Edgar Lungu as a campaign strategy, a move she says does not serve the nation's best interests. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation has issued a firm advisory to all Zambians abroad, especially those residing in or planning to travel to the United States, urging strict compliance with immigration laws in light of recent policy shifts aimed at tightening border enforcement. And in sports news, Copper Queens defender Loshomo Mwemba says Zambia will not take DR Congo lightly when the two sides meet in their final Group A match of the Total Energies CAF Women's Africa Cup of Nations WAFCON Morocco 2024. On behalf of the entire news team, my name is Imelda Chukwati. Stay tuned to Sun FM Radio and TV. God bless.
Sun FM.
Win nama muli 1 million na ABSA. Play your cards right, Muntu Andy, and you could win big. Simply tap or swipe any of your ABSA cards.